My company's stock options were worth $22 million after the IPO. $22 million. I stared at the number on my laptop screen in my home office, my hands trembling. 15 years. 15 years I'd been with TechVision as employee number 47, watching my stock options accumulate, believing in the company when everyone else thought we were crazy. And now, finally, we'd gone public. I had to tell Michael, my husband of 38 years, we'd weathered everything together. The lean startup years when I worked 80-hour weeks, the miscarriage, his mother's long illness, our daughter Emma's difficult teenage years, everything. This windfall would change our lives. We could finally take that trip to New Zealand he'd been dreaming about. Maybe buy that cabin in Vermont we'd always talked about. I grabbed my keys and drove to his downtown office. Michael was a senior partner at Henderson & Associates, a prestigious architecture firm. I'd called ahead, but his secretary Linda said he was in a meeting. That was fine. I'd surprise him. God, I couldn't wait to see his face. The elevator ride to the 14th floor felt eternal. I practiced what I'd say. Should I be casual about it, or just blurt it out? My heart pounded with excitement as I walked down the familiar hallway, past the glass-walled conference rooms and modern art prints Michael had helped select. I approached his corner office and reached for the door handle. That's when I heard voices inside, Michael's voice, and a woman's. She was laughing, that intimate kind of laugh that makes your stomach drop even before your brain catches up. I froze. My hand hovered inches from the door. "Stop," Michael said, but he was laughing too. Someone could walk in. "Your secretary said you're in meetings all afternoon," the woman replied. Her voice was younger, much younger. Besides, we've been careful for 2 years now. "When are you going to tell her, Michael? You keep saying soon, but it's always soon." 2 years. My hand dropped to my side. The world tilted sideways. "Jennifer, please. You know it's complicated. Claire and I have been together since college. There's Emma to consider, even though she's 28 now. The house, the finances, everything is intertwined. Claire." He was talking about me like I was a logistics problem, an obstacle to overcome. "You said after the IPO," Jennifer pressed. "You said once she got her payout, you'd ask for a divorce. That's happening now, isn't it? TechVision went public this morning." I couldn't breathe. The hallway seemed to narrow, walls closing in. "I didn't know it would be today," Michael said. His voice had that edge it got when he was calculating, planning. "But yes, this actually works out perfectly. Claire's stock options will be worth millions. She'll be set up. She won't need me financially anymore. I can approach this from a position of fairness." "Fairness?" Jennifer laughed, sharper this time. "Michael, you've been planning to leave her for 2 years. That's not fair. That's strategic," he interrupted. "Look, Claire's devoted her whole life to that company. She deserves to enjoy her success. I'm not the villain here. We've grown apart. It happens. Better to be honest now than waste more years pretending." Pretending? That's what he thought we'd been doing. Pretending. I thought about last month, when he'd held my hand during my father's funeral. The way he'd made me tea every morning for 38 years. Exactly how I liked it. Our Sunday crossword puzzle tradition. The vacation we'd just booked to Santa Fe for our anniversary next month. All pretending? My phone buzzed in my purse. I pulled it out with numb fingers. An email from Emma. "Mom, saw the news about TechVision. We need to celebrate. Dinner this weekend? Love you so much. Thanks for watching." I looked at the door again. Behind it, my husband was planning our divorce with his mistress. They were waiting for me to get my money so he could leave with a clear conscience. 2 years. While my mother was dying and he drove me to the hospice every day. While we hosted Thanksgiving and Christmas. While we made love and talked about retirement and browsed travel magazines together. I should have burst in. I should have screamed. I should have confronted them both right there. But I didn't. Instead, I turned around and walked back to the elevator. My legs moved automatically, carrying me down to the parking garage, into my car. I sat there for 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, my engagement ring catching the fluorescent lights. Then I drove to my best friend Rachel's house. Rachel opened the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. "What happened?" I told her everything. The IPO, Michael's office, the conversation I'd overheard. All of it poured out while she sat beside me on her couch, her hand gripping mine. "That son of a bitch," she said when I finished. "That calculating, cold-blooded son of a bitch. 2 years, Claire? While your mom was sick? He's waiting for the right moment to ask for a divorce," I said. My voice sounded hollow. "He thinks now that I have money, I'll be fine with it. What are you going to do?" I looked at her. "I don't know. I should go home. Talk to him. Maybe there's an explanation." "An explanation?" Rachel's voice rose. "Claire, you heard him planning this with his girlfriend. What explanation could possibly make that okay?" She was right. But 38 years of marriage doesn't just evaporate in an afternoon. There had to be something I could do. Some way to fix this. "I need a lawyer," I heard myself say. Rachel nodded. "My cousin Diane is a divorce attorney. She's brilliant and ruthless. I haven't decided to divorce him yet." Rachel looked at me with something like pity. "Maybe not. But you need to protect yourself. Just in case. Will you at least call her?" I called. Diane Martinez could see me first thing tomorrow morning. I went home. Michael's car wasn't in the driveway yet. I walked through our house, this beautiful craftsman we'd renovated together, room by room, the kitchen where we'd cooked thousands of meals, the living room where we'd watched Emma grow up, our bedroom where the photo from our wedding still sat on his nightstand, 23-year-old me in a simple white dress, 24-year-old Michael in his father's suit, both of us grinning like we knew a secret the rest of the world didn't. Had that ever been real? Or was I just convenient? The supportive wife who made his life easier while he built his career? Michael came home at 7. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea I hadn't touched. "Hey," he said, kissing my forehead like always. "How was your day?" I almost told him. The words were right there. "I know. I heard you. 2 years." But something stopped me. Maybe it was self-preservation. Maybe it was strategy. Maybe I'd learned something from being married to an architect all these years. You don't start demolishing a building until you have a plan for what comes next. "Fine," I said. "Busy." He grabbed a beer from the fridge. "Anything interesting happen?" I looked at him. Really looked at him. The silver in his hair that I'd always found distinguished. The reading glasses he'd started wearing 5 years ago. The slight paunch that came from too many business dinners. When had he stopped being the man I married and become this stranger? "TechVision went public today," I said. His hand paused halfway to his mouth. "That's fantastic. Claire, that's incredible. Your options must be worth..." "A lot," I said. "They're worth a lot." He set down his beer and came to hug me. I stood stiff in his arms, feeling nothing. "We should celebrate," he said into my hair. "This is huge. You've worked so hard for this." "We've both worked hard," I said. "For a lot of things." Something in my tone made him pull back. "Is everything okay?" "Just tired," I lied. "It's been a long day." That night, he fell asleep beside me like always. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to his breathing. 38 years, 2 children, a grandson on the way, thousands of shared memories, and apparently 2 years of betrayal. I met Diane Martinez at 8 the next morning at her downtown office. She was younger than I expected, maybe 45, with sharp eyes and an even sharper suit. "Tell me everything," she said. I did. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. "Okay, here's the situation. California is a community property state. Normally, anything acquired during the marriage is split 50-50 in a divorce." My stomach dropped. "So he gets half of my stock options?" "Not necessarily." "When did you receive these options?" 15 years ago. But they only vested over time. The last batch vested 3 months ago. "And when did you start at the company?" 18 years ago. We'd been married 20 years when I started. Diane made notes. "Here's where it gets complicated. Stock options granted during a marriage are generally community property. But," she looked up at me, "if you can prove the options were granted for future services, or if there's been marital misconduct, we might have arguments. He's been having an affair for 2 years. Can you prove it?" Could I? I hadn't taken photos. I hadn't recorded the conversation. I heard them talking in his office. I could go back, get evidence. "Don't do anything illegal," Diane warned. But yes, evidence of infidelity can matter, especially if marital assets were used to support the affair. Did he give her gifts? Take trips with her? I don't know. I just found out yesterday. Diane studied me. Claire, I need to be honest with you. Even with evidence of an affair, you're probably looking at splitting your assets. But here's what we can do. We can make sure you're protected. We can move quickly, before he has time to hide assets or prepare. And we can make damn sure he doesn't get more than his legal share. I haven't decided if I want a divorce. She nodded. I understand. But from what you've told me, he's planning to file. The question is, do you want to be prepared, or do you want to be blindsided? She was right. What do I need to do? First, don't tell him about the IPO payout details. Don't tell him your plans. Act normal. Second, gather financial documents, bank statements, credit card statements, investment accounts, everything. Third, look for evidence of the affair, carefully. Fourth, open a bank account in your name only. When the stock options convert to cash, you'll want somewhere safe to put your share. Is that legal? It's smart. You're not hiding assets. You're protecting them until division is determined. There's a difference. I left her office with a list of tasks and a retainer agreement to sign if I decided to proceed. My head spun. Was I really doing this? Planning the end of my marriage based on a conversation I'd overheard? But what was the alternative? Wait for him to blindside me? Wait for him to leave after 38 years of my life? I went home and started going through files. Michael was meticulous about record keeping. I found everything Diane had asked for within an hour. Bank statements, credit card bills, investment accounts. That's when I saw them. Charges on his credit card I didn't recognize. Dinners at expensive restaurants on nights he'd told me he was working late. A hotel in Napa from last spring when he'd said he was at an architecture conference in San Francisco. Jewelry purchases I'd never received. My hands shook as I photographed every page with my phone. I called Rachel. Can you come over? She arrived within 30 minutes. I showed her everything. Claire, she said softly, I'm so sorry. I need to find out who she is. Jennifer, I need to see her. Are you sure that's a good idea? No. It was probably a terrible idea, but I needed to know. I needed to see the woman my husband had chosen over me. I called Michael's office. Linda, his secretary, answered on the second ring. Hi, Linda. It's Claire. I'm trying to reach Michael, but he's not picking up his cell. He's in a meeting with Jennifer Chen from the planning department. Should I interrupt? Jennifer Chen. I had a name. No, that's fine. I'll try him later. I hung up and immediately searched for her on LinkedIn. There she was, Jennifer Chen, associate planner at Henderson & Associates, 29 years old, Stanford graduate, pretty, with long dark hair and an ambitious smile, 29. Michael was 63. I was 61. She's young enough to be his daughter, Rachel said, looking over my shoulder. She's 2 years older than Emma, I said numbly. That night, Michael came home late again. Sorry, he said. Big project deadline. With Jennifer Chen? The words were out before I could stop them. He froze. You know Jennifer? Linda mentioned her when I called earlier. She's new? She's been with us about 3 years. He loosened his tie. Talented kid. Bright future. 3 years. So the affair had started a year after she joined the firm. Maybe we should have her over for dinner sometime, I said, watching his face. I'd like to meet the people you work with. She's pretty busy, he said quickly. We all are right now. I nodded and said nothing more. But I saw the panic flash across his face, brief but unmistakable. The next week, I followed him. I'm not proud of it, but I did. On Thursday evening, he said he had a dinner meeting with a client. I watched him drive not to a restaurant but to a modern apartment building in South Lake Union. He parked, went inside, and didn't come out for 3 hours. I sat in my car, crying, because seeing it, knowing it for certain, was different from suspecting. It made it real in a way that conversation through a door hadn't. When I got home, I called Diane. I want to file for divorce. Are you certain? I thought about Michael climbing those apartment steps to Jennifer's door. I thought about 38 years of marriage. I thought about the lie he would tell me when he got home. I'm certain. We filed the next morning. Diane had her paralegal serve Michael at his office that afternoon. I stayed at Rachel's house, afraid to face him, afraid of what I might say or do. He called at 4. I let it go to voicemail. "Claire, what the hell? Divorce papers? Can we please talk about this like adults? I'm coming home. We need to discuss this." I called him back. "There's nothing to discuss, Michael. I know about Jennifer. I've known for 2 weeks." Silence. Then, how? "I came to your office the day of the IPO. I heard you planning how to leave me. 2 years, Michael. You've been lying to me for 2 years. Claire, please, let me explain." "Explain what? That you fell out of love with me while I was caring for my dying mother? That you were planning our divorce while we were booking our anniversary trip? Please, Michael, enlighten me." "It's not like that." "Then what is it like?" More silence. "Then, I didn't want to hurt you." I laughed. It sounded brittle even to my own ears. "Well, congratulations. You failed spectacularly. The stock options," he said. "Claire, you need to understand. Those are marital assets. We need to split them fairly." And there it was. The real concern. Not our marriage, not 38 years, the money. "Talk to my lawyer," I said and hung up. He came to the house anyway. I'd changed the locks at Diane's suggestion. He stood on the porch, ringing the doorbell for 20 minutes before finally leaving. The divorce moved forward. Michael hired Thomas Burke, one of the best divorce attorneys in Seattle. They came out swinging, demanding half of everything, half the house, half my 401k, half the stock options that had just made me $22 million. They're arguing that since the options were granted during the marriage, they're community property, Diane explained during one of our many meetings. "We're arguing that the options were compensation for your future services and that Michael contributed nothing to your earning them. What are our chances?" "Honestly, 50-50. It depends on the judge, but we have something else working for us, the affair. I'm going to argue that Michael engaged in financial misconduct, using marital assets to support his relationship with Jennifer. Can you prove that?" She smiled. "The credit card statements you found? The hotel charges? The jewelry? The dinners? That's about $40,000 over 2 years. We're going to argue that money should come out of his share of the community property." The case dragged on for months. Michael moved in with Jennifer, which at least made his betrayal public. Emma called, devastated. "Dad says you're being unreasonable. He says the divorce was mutual." "It wasn't," I said. "Your father was having an affair for 2 years before I filed." Silence. "Then, with who?" "A woman from his office, Jennifer Chen. She's 29. "Oh my God, Mom, I'm so sorry." Emma stopped talking to her father after that. I didn't ask her to. I never spoke badly about him to her. But she was a smart woman. She drew her own conclusions. The trial was set for October, 8 months after I'd filed. Diane prepared me carefully. We had evidence, bank statements, credit card receipts, text messages between Michael and Jennifer that his firm's IT department had been forced to turn over during discovery. Messages talking about me, about their future together, about waiting for the right time. But Michael's lawyer had evidence too. Documents showing that my stock options had been granted during our marriage. Testimony about how Michael had supported my career, taking care of our home and children while I worked long hours at TechVision. "He's painting himself as the supportive spouse," Diane warned me. "The stay-at-home dad who sacrificed his career for yours." "That's bullshit. He was senior partner at his firm. He worked as many hours as I did." "I know. And we'll make sure the judge knows it too." The trial lasted 3 days. I sat in that courtroom listening to my marriage dissected. Michael's lawyer made him sound like a saint who'd been taken for granted. My lawyer painted him as a calculating adulterer who'd waited for me to strike it rich before filing for divorce. They were both right, in a way, and both wrong. On the 3rd day, the judge asked to speak to both attorneys in chambers. Diane came out looking pleased. "The judge is ready to rule," she said. "This is good. This is very good." We assembled in the courtroom. Judge Patricia Morrison looked at both of us over her reading glasses. "I've reviewed all the evidence in this case," she began, "and I want to be clear about something. Infidelity, while morally reprehensible, is not typically grounds for unequal property division in California. However, financial misconduct is. Michael's lawyer started to stand. The judge waved him down. Mr. Patterson used marital assets to support an extramarital affair for approximately 2 years. While $40,000 may seem minor in the context of a high-asset divorce, it represents a breach of fiduciary duty to his spouse. Additionally, the evidence suggests Mr. Patterson delayed divorce proceedings specifically to benefit from his wife's anticipated financial windfall. My heart pounded. As to the stock options, Miss Patterson received these as compensation for services performed over 15 years. While granted during the marriage, the bulk of their value came from her work, expertise, and the success of a company she helped build. Mr. Patterson contributed to the marital partnership, certainly, but not to the specific asset in question. She paused, looking at Michael. Therefore, I'm ruling that the stock options and their proceeds are Miss Patterson's separate property. However, the marital home, retirement accounts, and other assets will be divided equally. Mr. Patterson will reimburse the community for $40,000 in misappropriated funds. Each party will be responsible for their own legal fees. I couldn't breathe. The stock options were mine, all $22 million. Michael's face went white. Your Honor, that's not... My ruling stands, Judge Morrison said. This court is adjourned. Diane grabbed my hand under the table. We won. I walked out of that courthouse in a daze. Michael tried to talk to me in the parking lot. Claire, please. This isn't fair. We built our life together. I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man I'd loved for 40 years. You're right, I said. We did build a life together, and then you demolished it for a 29-year-old. But you know what? You did me a favor. Because now I get to build something new. Just for me. I got in my car and drove away. The divorce was finalized in December. I sold the house. Too many memories. I took my half of the proceeds and my stock options and bought a condo downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay. Emma and I grew closer. She was pregnant with her second child, a daughter she planned to name Claire. After the strongest woman I know, she said. I started traveling. New Zealand, like Michael and I had planned. But I went with Rachel instead, and it was better. We hiked glaciers and went wine tasting and laughed until our sides hurt. I went to Italy, to Japan, to Scotland. And in April, at a Tech Vision reunion party, I met someone. His name was David Chen, no relation to Jennifer. He was 65, a widower whose wife had died 3 years ago from cancer. He'd been an engineer at Tech Vision back in the early days, before leaving to start his own company. We started talking about the old days, the all-nighters, the crazy ideas that somehow worked, the people who'd believed in something impossible. Do you want to get coffee sometime? He asked. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to say no. I was 62 years old. I'd just escaped a marriage that had ended in betrayal. Did I really want to risk my heart again? But then I looked at him. His kind eyes, his genuine smile. And I thought, why not? Why not take a chance? Why not believe that good things could still happen? Yes, I said. I'd like that. We've been seeing each other for 2 months now. It's different than it was with Michael. Lighter somehow. We go to concerts. We cook together. He makes me laugh. And when he looks at me, I feel seen in a way I haven't in years. Is it love? Maybe. Maybe not yet. But it's possibility. And after everything, that feels like a miracle. Emma asked me last week if I was happy. We were having lunch at the waterfront, watching the ferries come and go. Yes, I said. I think I am. Are you angry at Dad? I thought about it. Not anymore. I was. God, I was furious. But anger is exhausting, and it doesn't change anything. Your father made his choices. I made mine. We all have to live with them. He and Jennifer broke up, she said quietly. I wasn't surprised. Office romance built on betrayal rarely survives the harsh light of day. How do you know? He called. Said he wanted to explain things. Said he'd made a mistake. What did you tell him? That he should have thought about that before he cheated on his wife of 38 years. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I told him that some mistakes you don't get to come back from. I smiled. My daughter, defending me, choosing me. It meant more than she could know. That night, David and I went to a jazz club in Pioneer Square. Halfway through the set, he reached over and took my hand. Just held it, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "I really am." And I meant it. At 62, after 38 years of marriage, after betrayal and heartbreak and loss, I'd found something I didn't know I was looking for. Not just financial independence, though that was nice. Not just freedom from a broken marriage, but myself. The woman I'd been before I became someone's wife, before I became someone's mother. Just Claire. Just me. And she was pretty incredible. I thought about the moment I'd stood outside Michael's office door, hearing him plan our divorce. How my world had tilted. How I'd almost gone in, almost confronted him right then. I'm glad I didn't, because walking away gave me power. It gave me time. Time to think, to plan, to protect myself. Time to realize that I deserved better than someone who would betray me for 2 years and then calculate the best moment to leave. The stock options were never about the money. They were validation, proof that my work mattered, that my career and dedication and sacrifice meant something beyond just being Michael Patterson's wife. $22 million. It's more money than I ever dreamed of having. I'm setting up a scholarship fund for women in tech. I'm investing in startups run by women over 50. And I'm living my life exactly how I want to, without answering to anyone. Last week, Michael sent me an email. A long one, full of apologies and regrets, saying he'd been a fool, saying he wanted to try again, that we'd been together too long to throw it all away. I read it once and deleted it. We hadn't thrown anything away. He had, and I'd simply refused to drown with him. David asked me to go to Paris with him in June. "I know it's fast," he said, "and I know you might not be ready, but I'd love to show you the city, and I'd love to spend more time with you." I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. "I'd love to." He smiled, that warm smile that makes his eyes crinkle at the corners. "Yeah? Yeah. So this summer, I'll be in Paris, with a man who makes me laugh, who respects me, who sees me as a partner, not a convenience. At 62, I'm starting over, and it's terrifying and exhilarating and absolutely right. Emma hugged me last Sunday when I told her about the trip. "I'm proud of you, Mom," she whispered. "For what?" "For not settling. For knowing you deserve more. For showing me what strength looks like." I held my daughter and thought about the journey that brought me here. The betrayal, the divorce, the money, the new life I'd built. It wasn't the story I'd planned, but it was mine. And I was proud of it. That night, lying in bed in my condo with the city lights spread out below, I thought about that moment 2 years ago when my world changed. When I heard my husband plotting with his mistress. When I discovered that the life I thought I had was built on lies. It hurt then. God, it hurt. But now? Now I see it for what it was. Not an ending, but a beginning. The closing of a chapter that needed to close. The opening of something new. I'm 62 years old. I have more money than I know what to do with. I have a daughter who loves me, a grandson on the way, friends who stood by me, and a man who makes me feel young again. And I have myself. Whole, complete, unbroken. Michael thought he was going to wait for the right moment, cash in on my success, and leave gracefully. Instead, he lost everything. His family, his dignity, and yes, $11 million. As for Jennifer, I heard she left Henderson and Associates, took a job in Portland. I don't think about her much anymore. She was young and foolish and probably thought she was in love. I hope she learned something. I hope she never does to another woman what she did to me. But mostly, I don't care. Because my story isn't about them anymore. It's about me, about what I built, what I fought for, what I found. David and I have been talking about taking a cruise through the Greek islands next spring, about learning Italian together, about all the time we have ahead of us. Second chances, he said to me last night over dinner. They're pretty incredible, aren't they? I looked at him, this kind man who'd also lost someone he loved, who'd also rebuilt his life from pieces. They really are. So here's what I learned. You can build a life with someone for 40 years and still not really know them. You can give everything you have and have it thrown back in your face. You can have your heart broken at 60 and think your life is over. But you'd be wrong, because life doesn't end at 60 or even 70. It just changes. And sometimes, if you're lucky, it changes for the better. I sold my stock options in phases, diversified my investments, secured my future. I'm comfortable. More than comfortable. But the money isn't what matters. What matters is that I stood up for myself. I didn't accept betrayal. I didn't settle for less than I deserved. And I found out that I'm stronger than I ever knew, that I can build a life alone if I have to, that I don't need anyone to complete me because I was never incomplete to begin with. Michael taught me that lesson, though not the way he intended. He taught me that you can't rely on someone else for your happiness. You can't make someone your whole world, because people change, people leave, and when they do, you need to know who you are without them. I know who I am now, and I like her. She's brave and independent and still capable of taking chances, still capable of falling in love, or at least falling into something beautiful. So thank you, Michael, for cheating on me. Thank you for planning to leave me. Thank you for making me face the truth of our marriage. Because you freed me. You just didn't know it. And now I'm going to Paris with a wonderful man, and after that, who knows? The world is wide and full of possibility. And for the first time in years, maybe ever, I can't wait to see what happens next.